everybody, welcome back to Young Engineers of Today. I hope you had a good holiday. Hope you did some interesting stuff. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. And I hope you're ready to learn actually about some HTML. We are, believe it or not, we're ahead of the other classes. So we're actually going to work on the HTML we didn't have an opportunity to last Wednesday. There's also a part 2 to this lesson, which is not strictly necessary, but, you know, it's good to know, and if we have the time, we will work with that one as well. Anybody have any interesting stories about the holiday, or was it pretty low-key for you guys? Alright, well, let's go ahead and get started on learning HTML. Now, last week we pretty much spent Wednesday going over the Google site and how to mess around with stuff on that, and we went into the introduction to HTML, and it looks like the Google site information got moved, but oh well. Regardless, we also went over how HTML works, how it starts out as a document on a server, and then the browser translates in real time so that you can look at the page exactly, well, hopefully exactly as the a person who created the page intended it. The other nice thing is the fact that HTML is plain text. Uh, Actually, that should probably say plain text. It's plain text, which means we can use one of your free text editors on your computer, which is nice. And it's really easy to be able to look at the page as you're writing it in HTML. Basically, just to check up on it and watch your progress and test out the page and everything like that. And we'll actually see that in a moment once we start getting some coding done. Scripting. Scripting is probably more accurate. Page on site. Yep, I guess that'll get moved around. Okay, so I guess let's just go ahead and jump right into how HTML works. I know, Isaac, you got the presentation um, last week. So, this might all be old news for you. I know, Kai, last year, you were hitting Young Engineers, so this probably all looks pretty familiar as well. But, bear with me. After this lesson, next week we're going to get started on, I believe, bridge architecture. So we'll get through this, and hopefully you guys can take something away from it, and then we can start on engineering stuff. Not that this isn't, but you know what I mean. All right, so the structure of HTML is set up as tags. Um, Now, the thing to note about tags is they always have these angled brackets, which are called wakas, and they can either come in a paired or unpaired variety, or version. There could be paired or unpaired tags, essentially. Now, I suppose I should clarify, because the way I made that sound was like, sometimes you can pair a tag, sometimes you can leave it unpaired, which is not the case. If certain types of tags are always going to be paired, and certain types of tags are always going to be unpaired. And we'll get into exactly what that means. This is an example of a paired tag. Now, this is called the HTML tag, which is basically wraps around your entire HTML document. It lets the browser know that this is where all of the information, all the scripting begins, so that it can actually translate that information into a web page. Now, when I say it's paired, it means that there's an opening tag, which is denoted by the wakas, and the keyword, in this case HTML, and then there's a closing tag, which also has these two, has the keyword as well, but then there's this forward slash right here, and that's intentional. The forward slash means that it is a closing tag. It means that everything after that is no longer a part of whatever's whatever's in between those two tags. It's like in math when you have a part of the equation that's inside parentheses. Obviously, the stuff that's inside of parentheses is only inside of the parentheses, which is kind of a tautology, but anyway, these denote the beginning and the end of whatever's in between them. So yeah, paired and unpaired tags. Cool. So why don't you guys go ahead and open up your free little text editor right now. Let's go ahead. I'm going to make this font a little bit bigger so it'll be easier for you guys to read it. Now, first things first, there's this tag right here. That's doctype, D-O-C-T-Y-P-E, in all caps with an exclamation mark in front of it, HTML. And then, of course, we've got our paired HTML tags. And then we've got paired tags that are labeled head, and paired tags that are labeled body. I'll give you guys a minute or so to type all that stuff in, but this right here is technically your first complete HTML document. What? Technically speaking, this is all you'd need. Browser will be able to open it and be able to translate all that stuff, and for all intents and purposes it's a working web page. Now it's pretty boring because if you were to open this up in, say, Chrome here, it would just be a blank white page. And that's it. And that's, well, like I said, not terribly exciting. But let's just go ahead and work with this anyway, and then take a look at what the individual parts of this represent, and then we can work on filling it out with more interesting stuff. It's actually not a bad idea. Let's go ahead and save it first. So go up to File, and then Save. And let's save it to the desktop so it'll be easier to find. So under the Save As type, go ahead and select All Files, and then give it a name. But make sure, after you give it a name, to put .html at the end, like I have here. So I just labeled it test page, and then .html. That part's important so that it understands that it is an HTML document. Testpage.html, hit save. And yeah, really, if we wanted to, you'll see I've got my testpage.html here on the desktop. Double click on that, and it opened it right here. Testpage.html, look at it in all of its interesting glory. So yeah, save it to the desktop, give it a .html suffix, double click on it, and if you've also, it should have, the icon of your browser of choice. If it recognizes that it's an HTML file, double click on it and it will open up in your browser as just a blank white page. Boom, done. That's the wrong lesson. So let's take a look at what these parts actually are. So first thing is we've got the HTML tags. We already knew about those. Everything in between those is HTML code. Now notice that there's actually this one thing, this doctype HTML, which is outside of our HTML tags. What? What is that? Well, it's actually it's an unpaired tag, as you notice, because there's no there's no corresponding doc type HTML at the end of the document, but it's an unpaired tag that basically just denotes that this document is HTML5. So the newest version of HTML. That's all it means. Simple as that. So it's kind of, well, we haven't really gotten into programming in like C or anything like that, or Java, but there are similar things in those languages where you have sort of like, in C they might be called directives, in Java they might be file imports and things like that, library imports, which go outside of the actual code, but they're important for the compiler or the browser to know. But everything inside of these HTML tags is going to be the bulk of your scripting. So now we've got these head tags right here and these body tags, and these are all paired tags as well. The body tags pretty much contain everything that go inside of the main page of your web, or the main view of your web page. So like everything from what you're seeing right here down to the bottom, that's all pretty much going to go inside the bodies tags. So the body tags on most HTML documents contain, well, they can contain the bulk of the information. It depends on how the web page is made, but most websites, especially websites that use HTML, as opposed to plugins and things like that, are going to contain pretty much most of their information inside the body tags. The body tag is the largest part of the document. The head tag, on the other hand, the head tag is information like what goes up here in the little tab title. It might be information about the page, like a pop-up window that loads up whenever they load up the page. It might be information that tells the computer to import a certain plugin so that it'll run on the page. There might be metadata information for the computer to know, checking for cookies, things like that. So that's going to be in the head tag. Now another thing I want you guys to note is the HTML tag is the first paired tag that is opened. It is also the first or the last paired tag that is closed. That is to say, HTML tags are nested. So the first tag open is always going to be the last tag closed. And that goes inwards. It's like Russian nesting dolls, and you'll see a better example of that as we go through this lesson. So that should hopefully make more sense in a little bit. So yeah, the head tags contain information that carries throughout the whole document. This way you can do some preliminary formatting, like font or background colors. This is especially true with things like CSS. You'll be running into that a lot with CSS if you decide to continue with web development. You can add scripts to your web page that start when someone loads the page, and a few other stuff like that. But for now, though, we're actually going to introduce one other type of tag that we're going to put inside of the head tags. And this one is called title. Now note that title is also a paired set of tags. So here I've got head tag open, title tag closed, head tag closed. Now let's see what we can put in here, because the title tag, like the name might suggest to you, the title tag is what goes in the little tab title, or like at the top of the window or whatever. So we can call this the most important page in the universe. So there, we've got the most important page of the universe in between the title tags. Like so. So if we save this, and then go ahead and open up that test page again, and actually, there we go. You'll notice up here at the tab, at the top, it says the most important page in the universe. So that's what the title tag does, is it takes whatever's in between these two, puts it up there. Boom. Nice and easy. So immediately we've already made the web page way more interesting. In fact, people might look at this and go, is the page not loading? Like, what's the issue? I feel like this is very important. Maybe there's some kind of code. And again, here's what I mean by nested tags. So you'll notice that the title tags are contained entirely within the head tags, which are contained entirely within the HTML tags. Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense. So yeah, the body tag, everything that is inside of this orange rectangle over here. So like a lot of stuff. Like a lot of stuff. So we'll take a look at some of the tags that go inside the body tag. First one is the header tag. Confusingly, it's called the header tag because it's different from the head tag. There's the head tag, and then there's the header tag. The header tag goes inside the body. The head tag is separate. I don't know why. People just like to name things similarly. So the header tag is super easy. It's a paired tag that's just H, the letter H, lowercase h, followed by a number from 1 to 6. Now, the lower the number is, the larger the text is. That is to say, heading 1 is the largest heading size, and heading 6 is the smallest. It's tiny. It's just little tiny heading. And it's actually usually smaller than normal text. So let's go ahead and we'll add a heading. Header. So I'll just hit enter here. I'll make it really super big, so I'm going to use H1, and we're going to say, I hope you like the internet, because here it is. And then we'll go ahead and close out that header tag. Boom. Save it. Now this is the nice thing. If you keep your HTML document open in one of your browser windows, it's really super easy. All you have to do is just save your document again if you make any changes to it. So, just Control S to save, or File Save, and then go over to the browser window that has it open, and then just reload the page. And it'll automatically update with new information. And there we go, header 1 right there at the top. I hope you like the internet, because here it is. Even though that's technically a lie, this isn't the internet right here. This is just HTML on my hard drive. But, I like to mess with people, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, that's header 1. If we wanted to, we could, change the size. Let's make it header 3, and this will be significantly smaller once we reload the page. So let's reload the page. Boom, so much smaller. But this is important, so let's go ahead and bring it back up to 1. Cool. And we'll just save it and reload it the next time around. Next, we've got the paragraph tag. Now, the paragraph tag automatically separates blocks of texts into, wouldn't you know it, paragraphs. It's also known as the P tag. Yep, the P tag. So it's just it's a paired tag. Opening tag of P, closing tag of /P, and everything in between will be formatted much like a paragraph. Here is a paragraph, graph of text. I hope you should enjoy this page, because there are no other pages like it on the internet. This is totally unique and unusual. And at this point, I'm just filling out the paragraph so that it looks more wordy when we load the page. Yay. Good lord. Okay, I cannot type. There we go. So, just a block of text inside these paragraph tags. I saved it. Let's reload the page. Well, I didn't have as many words in there as I thought, because we didn't even fill up one line. Oh, there we go. If we do that. Now, here's something important to note. Let's go ahead and add another paragraph after it. This is a second paragraph Why are you still reading this? It's not the best. I have to be honest with you. There. With
Caution.
a little bit of honesty on my webpage, you'll notice that this first paragraph and the second paragraph, this first paragraph ends and the second paragraph begins on the same exact line in this document. We've just got the closing tag and then another opening tag immediately after it. No spaces, no nothing. Let's go ahead and save this and load up the web page. And this is what I mean by the paragraph tag. It's automatically added a blank line and then started it on a new line, even though the formatting looks different here. So that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that with HTML, formatting is king. It's not necessarily how you type it in the HTML document, it's how you use the tags. That's what affects the final look of the web page. So that's the paragraph tag. It's an easy way to separate blocks of text into their own paragraphs. Now, it's important to note that you do not actually need the paragraph tags in order to have information on your website. So like if we deleted the paragraph tags around this is a second paragraph, and we reloaded the page, excuse me, save, reload. Yeah, it's still there. It's just we got the paragraph tags around the first paragraph, so it automatically generates it for the second paragraph. But regardless, even though there's no paragraph tags, these still show up. So this so far looks kind of plain. Like there really isn't, this is just regular, I mean there's big text up here and there's small text down here, but it's not like really all that impressive or interesting. So let's go ahead and add a little bit, not too crazy, but a little bit of style to this document. The first one is going to be the bold tag. Bold tag, as you might imagine, makes text bold. The bold tag is also paired, which means it's got an opening and a closing tag. The bold tag is represented by the letter B and nothing else. So let's go ahead and make a word bold. Open the tag before you want things to be bold. Close the tag right afterwards. So in this case, the word should is surrounded by bold tags. So let's go ahead and save it and reload the page. Boom, should is now bold on the website. Web page, excuse me. So that's all bold does. Is it just makes words bold. Kind of like, it's written on the tin. It's the nice thing about these formatting styles, is it's really easy to tell. The next one is italics, and it's an I. So let's go ahead and we'll make a few words italicized. You'll notice that I've got an opening italics tag before no, and I got a closing one after it, so no other pages like it should be bold. Let's go ahead and test that theory. And there it is. No other pages like it is in fact all bold. It's just within those tags. So that's what italics does. Next we've got underline, which is U. So let's go ahead and underline totally for emphasis and look at it. Boom, yep, underlined word. No surprises there. Underline U, paired tag. Next one is strikethrough, which is S. And the strikethrough, as you might imagine, strikes through text, creates a line through it. So let's go ahead and strike through the word not. Get rid of that honesty. Now it's probably a little bit hard to tell on your screens. I don't know, depends on the resolution. But the word not here is stricken through. it has a line through it. Let's just say that. It has a line through it. So that's what Strikethrough does. Puts a line through it. Bam. And this is, I mean, it's kind of gimmicky, but it's good for keeping track of corrections on a document, I suppose. If you wanted to keep an updated rough draft looking kind of web page, or it might just be, you're trying to be silly and whatever. Anyway, Strikethrough. So just to review, B for bold, I for italics, U for underline, S for Strikethrough. It's a really good thing they all start with the same letter that they imply. Now here's another fancy thing. Style tags can be combined. Now this is largely down to taste. Depends on, when you'd actually want to do that, but it's entirely possible. So let's go ahead and we'll make should also italicized. So it'll be bold, in bold and italics. Save and reload. And look, the two are combined. Hey. And again, to illustrate that point again, the italics tag is the last tag closed. It is the first tag opened. The bold tag is the first tag opened. It is the last tag closed. They are nested. And these are nested inside of the paragraph tag, which is nested inside of the body tag, which are nested inside of the HTML tags, and the little, swallow to fly, blah, blah, blah. So remember the nesting. If you get some weird formatting stuff going on, check, and make sure, A, that you've got a proper closing tag, and B, that it's nested properly. So next is the line break tag, denoted with a BR. Now, a line break tag, again, is fairly self-explanatory. It just immediately ends the line that you were writing on and starts the rest of the text on a new line. Now, there is no line of white space like there is with the paragraph tag. As you can see, it's like a carriage return on a typewriter, or, the return key on the keyboard when you're typing a Word document. Things like that. It just immediately starts it on a new line. So that's what the line break does. And also note that the line break is unpaired, because you don't have to denote when the line ends. It just ends when the line is over, when there's no more space on that line, and it just moves down one more. You can put multiple break tags, and as you might imagine, creates multiple line breaks. It's a shocker. But yes, the line break tag is another one of those sprinkle to taste kind of things. Now, this one is a little bit more complex than the other ones we've gone over before. So, I'd recommend, if you're worried about it, watching this decently closely. These are lists. And lists work a little bit strangely in HTML at first. It seems like at first, but once you understand it, it makes perfect sense. Now, lists come in two flavors. You've got an unordered list, and then you've got an ordered list. And an unordered list is just, bulletproof list. And an ordered list is the same idea, except it's numbered 1, 2, and 3 automatically. Because, computers make life easier like that. So an ordered list, it has no particular emphasis or order to it. Ordered list, you might have, like your 3 favorite, ice cream flavors or something like that. I have no idea. All listed. And they could be ordered 1, 2, and 3. Vanilla is my favorite, and then strawberry is my second favorite, and then pistachio is my third favorite, or whatever. I'm just pulling flavors out of a hat. So yeah. Now, the easy thing about unordered lists and ordered lists is they're structured the same way in HTML coding. Unordered list is a paired tag that is UL, and ordered list is a paired tag that is OL. So unordered, UL, ordered, OL. Simple enough. And let's see here, tribes, worms, Baldur's Gate. So I put those in there. Let's go ahead and load the page. Well, that didn't really seem to work now, did it? That's because there is a missing component to this. Each of these have to be contained within their own set of tags called a list item tag. And it's, like the name suggests, it tells the browser which exactly of these items are separate from one another. So tribes is its own item, worms is its own item, Baldur's Gate is its own item. These are all list items, and they're all separated with their own list item tags. So if we were to save this and reload the page now, boom, bullet points, automatically generated. The magic of computers. So make sure you have those list items. That is the second important component of either an unordered or an ordered list. So let's say Batman, Green Lantern, Flash. Boom. Now, just to take a look at the ordered list. There you go. And it automatically generates with the 1, 2, and 3. If we added more items, there would be a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, on and on until we had the end of our list. But that is the other important component of it, is don't forget these list items. Because otherwise you won't really have much of a list. So far that's been style, and that's been lists. Well, I guess style is a part of it. Lists are part of style, but whatever. Anyway, with that in mind, let's do a little bit of review of the stuff we just did before we jump into lesson 2. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to challenge you guys to build a page bit by bit, and each question is going to be a certain aspect of the page. Now, if you were here last year, you've already done this quiz, although, it might be a good review, and you might not remember what the questions were from last year, so that might work out perfectly anyway. But regardless, you will be building a page to the following specifications. Question the first. First one is pretty easy. So what you're going to do is you're going to give your page a heading. Remember the heading tag, or header tag. A heading with a and make sure it's the largest size, with a welcoming message of your choice. And I'm going to give you guys, that much time. Time's up. Question 2. Question 2. Write a short paragraph, only has to be a couple of sentences, about you, below the heading. And notice how the word paragraph is italicized, so maybe that's a clue about what exactly I'm looking for. Maybe there's some kind of tag. I mean, honestly, we just went over it 15 minutes ago, so it should still be there in your heads. And I mean, it doesn't have to be an epic tale or anything like that. And it doesn't have to be true either. Alright, so question 3. Question 3, I'm going to give you guys a little bit more time on, because this one can get a little bit dense. So you want to enter the text below onto your page exactly as it appears here. So, code it however you need to on the HTML document so that it appears on your web page exactly like how it looks here. Text enlarged for detail. Give you guys maybe like another half minute to a minute on that. Or I guess just, raise your hand once you're done with it. Alright, got one done. One done. Alright, give you guys a few more seconds on that, and then we'll move on to question 4. I mean, it's not, it's not the end of the world if you don't get it done in time anyway. Alright, and question the 4th. Present an unordered list of 3 places you'd like to visit. Ooh. So that's unordered. Remember bullet points. Okay. Once you've done that, I want you guys to do an ordered list of your 3 favorite sports, or video games, or movies, or books, or, actors or actresses. Well, I mean, I guess those are kind of rolled into one. Um, whatever. Athletes, doesn't matter. 3 favorite of something. Alrighty. So, now that that's all done, go ahead, or once you're done, save your HTML file, reload the web page, check and see how it looks. Hopefully it should look something like this. Something like this. Maybe not exactly like this, but this should look pretty close, and the paragraph and the large header and then the three items and the two lists and all that stuff. So it should look something like that. Raise your hand if it looks pretty much like that. All right. Excellent. All right, so now just in case, we'll go over the answers to that really quickly, and then we will move on to lesson 2, or as far as we can get in about 15 minutes. So the header tag, pretty easy. H1, remember that it's paired. Also remember that 1 means the largest. Nice and easy. The paragraph tag, yeah, the P tag, pretty familiar. This one was where it got a little bit wonky. Remember that the brown is underlined, so you use the U tag. Jumps is bold, so you use the B tag. Then you got your line breaks. Don't forget your line breaks. So you got a line break, and then over is italicized, so the I is around over. Another line break, so another BR. And then lazy is struck through, so they're the S tags around lazy. And again, remember that the break tags or line break tags are unpaired. So you don't need to close them or anything like that, but there are 2 here because there are 2 line breaks. And then unordered list, remember your list item tags. That is an important aspect of listing, is to have your list items, and unordered list is just UL. Thankfully, ordered list is structured exactly the same way, except it's just OL instead of UL. So you've got UL, OL, nice and easy. And then this is potentially what your final HTML document could look like. Now, here's the thing to note, again, about whitespace. Whitespace doesn't matter. And by that I mean all this nice little formatting I did with like the doctype HTML on its own line, and the opening HTML tag on its own line, and blah blah blah, all that stuff. We don't have to do that. We could technically do this over here on the right. This is exactly the same as what's over here on the left. It'll be interpreted exactly the same way by the computer. It's just this is a lot easier for you as a person to read while you're, creating the HTML document. So it's not a bad idea to, take full advantage of whitespace. Usually makes your life a lot easier. So that's the end of lesson 1. Let's go ahead and move on into lesson 2 real quick. And actually back up to the top. There we go. Back up to the top. Lesson 2, still intro to HTML. There is some stuff about HTML we have not learned yet. You guys might already have an idea about what this might be. Some vital aspects to the internet which, are present in pretty much every web page, are missing from our web page. Linking and pictures. So we're going to basically go over how to hotlink pictures, how to add links to other web pages, and just some additional style information and stuff like that. So yeah, when used correctly, you'll notice that's italicized. When used correctly, pictures add to a website's visual appeal and can help illustrate ideas that you want to convey. Now, you guys weren't around for the explosion of Angelfire and GeoCities web pages in the mid to late 90s, but boy, were those a treat to look at. It was when everybody figured out that you could add pictures to everything, and so just, good lord. You can go on the Wayback Machine and potentially look at some of those websites. Actually, I think Space Jam still has a website like a website for the movie Space Jam, and that's actually a pretty decent. Let's see here. Yep, this still exists. And this is actually a decent indicator of what these pages used to look like back in the day. Let's go to the lineup. Look at that! Look at that frame stuff. Look at this! Look at this wallpaper background, and oh. So this is an example of pictures not necessarily being applied correctly. This background is not fantastic. But if you like basketball and you like to jam, go no further. So at least there's that going for the Space Jam, page. You'll notice also that there's a picture here, and these are all individual links and stuff like that. Oh, good. Good God. Yep, this is like exactly what websites look like in the mid to late 90s. Anyway, when used correctly, pictures can really add to, the visual appeal of a website. And they can help complement what you might be writing there. So you can think of a website more as like being a magazine, as opposed to a book, um, in that sense. And being able to add a picture to your website is not too bad, to be perfectly honest. This is the code below, but we're going to go over what it means. So here's an important thing. The image tag is unpaired. There is no closing tag, or no closing tag for the image tag. There's just the wakas, and then the code in between, and that's it. So the IMG is short for image, but that denotes that this is an image tag. Note that it's entirely lowercase, like pretty much every HTML tag ever. And then SRC is short for source. Now, as you might imagine, the source is the URL where this picture is located. The exact URL, it should be noted. So we've got image, source equals, and then in quotes, we've got a picture URL. I know there's also URL, but as opposed to URL, but I prefer to not use URL. So yeah. Also keep in mind that there's no space between source, the equal sign, and the opening quotes, and the website and the closing quotes. The only space on this entire tag is between image and source. Everything else, all just kind of slammed together. So yeah, it's important to note that if you put something wrong in, like a URL that doesn't have a picture attached to it, you're going to get this broken picture icon or missing picture icon. So let's go over real quick how to add a proper URL for an image. The easiest way to do that is to Google search for things. Let's do a Google search for cats. I like this cat rolled up inside a thing. Let's go click on that one. Now, this will not do as a URL. We can't use that. What we can do, however, is we can click on View Image right here in Google Search. Boom. This is the URL of the picture right here. This is like the Google Sites adding a new picture we were doing last time. So there we go. So we've got iytimg.com/vi/tnt ocg kgt blah blah blah. You get the idea. I really don't need to read that whole thing out, even though I almost did. So let's go ahead and add this picture to our page. So image src equals, paste that there, closing bracket or closing quotes, closing waka. So that is the entire thing right there. We've got image source equals, here's the picture address, save it, Reload the page, and look at that picture of the cat. There's that picture of the cat, and we are adding to the saturation of cat pictures on the internet, like any good red-blooded American. But we should go over this real quick because this is kind of important. So, actually, it's really important. Image rights. Image rights. The internet. It's really great that you can share information on the internet, and it's really great that it's really easy to get a bunch of information from a bunch of different places on the internet. However, that oftentimes can mean that somebody's hard work might be found on another website without, any credit attributed to them. Somebody might have taken a really awesome picture, put their name on it, and somebody else might have taken their picture off the internet, cut their name out of the bottom of it, and rehosted it onto another website. Don't be those guys. Make sure you don't host copyrighted images on your website. And this is doubly true if your website is for profit. Because, worst case scenario, they could hire a lawyer to demand that you give, some money to them for it. Which could be a decent chunk of change depending on the situation. But regardless, you might get an email being like, oh, can you take my picture down? And it's just kind of awkward for everybody involved, so make sure you don't use copyrighted images. In addition to that, some sites disallow hotlinking. Now, hotlinking means that you provide the direct URL, like what we've got here, for an image to load on another page. So basically, we wouldn't be able to, like, if hotlinking was disallowed, we would not be able to use this link in here. What instead we'd get if we loaded this page was we'd get something like, oh, hotlinking is disallowed by, blah, 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 blah.com. And it might be just like a really ugly looking picture because a lot of times they make those pictures pretty ugly so that people don't want to do that. Yeah, if you've gone on forums at all, you might see that kind of thing, like hotlinking disallowed. But that's what that means, is they want you to look at the photo through their website. They want you to click on a link on their website in order to view the photo, as opposed to be on an entirely different website and just have the direct URL like slapped into like a forum post or something. So just to make sure, see, if you can't find several different versions of your image from different websites. Because if one of them doesn't work, chances are one of the other ones does. And then when you're not sure, when in doubt, use open source art. So stock photos like the woman with the future helmet on looking at corn, that's perfectly okay because that's stock imagery. Clip art is fine. All those really kind of unfortunate looking stick figures and, abstract meeting pictures and stuff like that you find on Microsoft Word. Clip art is okay. And new licensed. New is an open source, basically free rights, kind of, not really free rights, but it's an open source license that allows you to use, intellectual property elsewhere as long as you properly credit the person. But anyway, it's a freer version of copywriting. So we already went over this. Type your search term into the box, blah blah blah. Paste it in. You can also paste pictures from your computer, or like it has it here. So that's possible. Like see users, your username, desktop screenshots, all that kind of stuff. Like that's okay. You can paste that into here and then load it up and it will show up here. But it's important to note that that's only found on your computer. So if you did that for a web page and you uploaded that web page to Google Sites and somebody tried to look at it, because this is an absolute path, the person who visits your website, their computer is going to try and pull the image from this file path on their computer. Not your computer, on their computer. Which, unless you have the exact same username and the exact same file and the exact same location, is going to pull up nothing. Even if you had the exact same username and the exact same file and the exact same location, or the exact same file name and the exact same location, it's probably not exactly the exact same file, so they're going to have some different pictures show up and it's going to be weird. But more often than not, it's just going to be a broken picture icon, like up here, because it's on your computer, not theirs. So a lot of times you can upload images from your computer to the web host so that anyone will be able to see it, much like you can with the Google site. And it's 8:56. Let's see if we can't go a little bit longer. I'll ask the poll questions at 8:58. So the important thing to note is that the internet is also made up of links. I mean, there's a lot of links on the internet, a lot of places to go, a lot of different pages. Otherwise, the internet would be like one really long page and it'd be really hard to read. Because that scroll bar would be gigantic. So let's take a look at the link tag then. Sorry, my cat is freaking out. Let's take a look at the link tag. So the link tag looks like this. Now note that it is a paired tag. However, the closing tag looks different from the opening tag by like a lot. Like the opening tag is really big and the closing tag is really small. But it's actually not too bad once you take a look at it. So A, in this case, is simply just kind of like a placeholder. So the A part is just so we have something small to close it with. The really, the part that does all the work here is the href. So A href, which is short for, hypertext reference, equals, and then quotes. So in this case, let's go to www.thiswebsite.totallyexists.com. Now we've got a closing tag and an opening tag, and we've got the href, and again, like the image source, there's no space in between href and the equal sign. But you'll notice in this example here, there's some writing in between the closing tag and the opening tag. So let's just go ahead and type like hello there in here. Save. Reload. Hey, look at that. Oh, where'd it go? There it is. Hello there. Does that look familiar? Whoa, it's this stuff right in here. So that's why there is an opening and a closing tag, is because whatever's in between the two tags is going to be the link text, and then take you to this website, totallyexists.com, which doesn't exist. One final point, like the style tags, image tags and link tags can be combined, which is really, actually, thankfully, pretty easy to do. Let's say we want to make this image a link, in fact, this link. So instead of the words hello there being our link, we want the picture of the cat inside of the roll to be our link. So let's go ahead and we'll just cut this with, I'm going to use, Control X, but you guys can go up here to cut, and then highlight hello there, and then just paste it right in there. So paste it, overwrite hello there. So you'll notice we've got an image tag in the middle of the closing and opening link tags. I think you guys can see where this is going. Reload the page. Look at that. If we mouse over it, it becomes the pointer finger. We can click on it and go to the website that totally does not exist. Alright, it is 9 o'clock, so I'm going to ask those poll questions real quick. And then I'm going to let you guys head on out.